Okay, we are live. Hello
Let's
and
do it.
all right. I gotta resituate a bunch of my stuff now that I got it all working.
Gosh, your mic sounds so nice.
Thank you. I actually I did a lot of work recently into it using some software to make it sound even better. I guess in my opinion, better.
Oh yeah.
I've been pretty happy with the outcomes, but all right, welcome everybody. For those of you joining the live stream, and it reminded me actually, as I said that, I still haven't decided on how or where I'm going to post this as a podcast. I haven't posted the last one either, so that's cute. But that's okay. For those of you catching this in the live stream, we got a fun show for you today. You can see our list of topics. We're only going with 3. I feel like last time we had a lot of topics and we spent a majority of that time talking about one. So I wanted to give a little bit more time to all these topics. Kicking off the show. Yeah, if you caught last week's stream, you'll know when we were ranking the live action series, Jacoby confessed that he had only seen a couple episodes of the Book of Boba Fett. And
that is true.
We thought it'd be fun going forward if he start watching an episode at a time, and we could do a little segment here on the stream, him talking about his take on said episodes. So that's how we're gonna kick off the show. Following that, we will be doing another ranking. This time we'll be doing character arcs, specifically probably the most popular characters within the fan base. So that should be pretty exciting. Lots of conversation, I'm sure, there. And then to finish off the show, Jacoby and I are going to be picking from a small pool of rare Force abilities. All right, let's get this puppy rolling. I think in the future I might make an animation to kind of roll after I introduce the kind of titles, and then we could go into the actual segments.
I like it.
It'd be cool. All right. So you'll have to remind me. I think you said you'd only seen the first 2 episodes of the Book of Boba Fett. Is that accurate, or?
Yeah, but when I first watched it, I didn't put much attention into what I was watching. It was more of a background show, so I did rewatch the first episode.
Oh, okay. So you started from the beginning.
Started from the beginning.
Oh, that's exciting. All right. So let's hear it. Let's hear the take.
Well, I actually really, really enjoyed it. I remember the first time I watched it, I thought it was a little too slow. There wasn't any dialogue, but watching it again, I definitely appreciated it a lot more. I loved it. I actually was very hooked off that first episode. That pilot was amazing, but I did say I was going to watch 1 episode a week, so I had to hold myself back from just binging it.
Fair.
The timeline was a little confusing, but I picked it up. I am curious to kind of see the past timeline, that's taking place, in the past and all that. I am curious to see how that plays out to the character he is now, because right now we're seeing him as a more pacifist character. So that'll be interesting. I definitely am enjoying it, though. I thought it was a really, really good episode. What else can I say about it? The action was pretty cool. I did love how cold he was, even when he was kind of a pacifist. He got jumped by a group of people in that town that he was in. And one of the guards or whatever, one of the characters tried to run away, and he just fired a missile at his back. And I was like, oh, man, that is brutal, but I love it.
Yeah. Keep going. You're good.
There's not much to really say off that first episode. Because, like I said, there isn't a lot that really does happen, which is okay. It's the first episode, but because I am watching episode by episode, that's all I really have to say. He definitely gives me dad energy, though, and I'm all for it though. But he gives me dad energy.
So you'll have to help me remember, because I watched the Book of Boba Fett as it was coming out, so it's been several months now. The first episode, because I remember the first several episodes, it's a combination of present day and flashbacks, and the timeline we see in the flashbacks is him coming out of the Sarlacc pit, and then he gets captured, right?
Yes, he's captured by who are they called again? I'm spacing the name.
I believe it's the Sand People from the get-go.
Oh yeah, I didn't know if there was like a more specific name, but yeah, it's the Sand People. He gets,
Tusken Raiders.
yeah, the Tusken Raiders. Yeah, so he gets captured by them. Uh, he kind of like does their chores in the sense that he's digging for water. He's like water capsules, and doesn't get a lot of respect. But then there's this beast that comes out of the sand, and he saves one of the kids. That's one of the raiders, and ends off with him actually getting a little bit of respect.
He
But
like
even that
uses
scene was
their
pretty epic.
he uses like their shackles to strangle it, right?
Yeah,
Nice nod to episode 6 when Leia kills Jabba.
yeah, it was a good episode. It does make me sad that I've seen the certain clips that are very corny
Yeah.
that happen in the future episodes because I'm like, wow, this was a really, really cool first episode. And honestly, not having a lot of dialogue, thinking about it again, that's not necessarily a bad thing because he had zero dialogue.
Yeah, he
Almost
said
close
like
to zero
one
dialogue
line.
in the original.
Exactly. He's very stoic. No, I agree. That's the thing that was really hard about Book of Boba Fett as well because I mean, this definitely was my opinion. Thinking back, I feel like most of what I was hearing after the first episode, most people were pretty on board. Like the timeline was pretty interesting. The fact that he was so stoic, and yeah, the action spots were cool. There was because in the modern day part of the show, when they get jumped, it's like the guys with the energy shields, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so the one critique I think in that whole episode that I really remember was people were getting pissy because he didn't use his jetpack and like just jetpack out of that. And just, to leave Fennec Shan behind. But I mean, to me, that was a minor critique even at the time. Because, yeah, but the whole thing is that they were building up to be this really interesting thing. It's like, oh, he's still healing in the back to tank, and we're going to get flashbacks of how he got to where he's at. It was a really cool concept, so it's kind of neat that you get to go back and watch it.
I think there are a few things that I think when you're making a show, I think there's certain obstacles you kind of have to push to the side if you do want to make an interesting action sequence at least. Because in terms of what they could have done is an argument you can make with almost any action film.
Sure, that's fair. Yeah.
But if I were to side with the people that do have that complaint, they could have also done something where they mentioned his jetpack was damaged. For when he comes out of that pit.
Yeah, something like that.
I guess. Oh, actually, no. I guess time did pass because this was future tense.
Yeah, it had been a couple years, if I remember right.
Yeah, but what you were kind of saying, how Star Wars is kind of in a bad spot where people have a bad taste in their tongue. I think that goes into that complaint because to me, I hear that and I'm like, you could have, but like, would it have really been an interesting viewing experience if we just flew off and that was it?
Sure.
So like that sounds like that almost sounds like people were like striving to find the negative.
A little bit nitpicking. I agree. It wasn't something that I innately noticed. That's the thing about me too, is like when I watch stuff, I'm better at it now, I guess, than I've ever been. Kind of noticing some of this is weird. Like I feel like I've always kind of been attuned to stuff that's off-putting, but I never really had the experience to kind of hold it against and be like, oh yeah, that is weird, and it's not just me feeling a weird way or thinking a weird thing. So when I watch shows or movies, if something is blatantly obvious to me that it's like, yikes, that's pretty bad, I know it's pretty bad. And Boba Fett unfortunately had a few of those critiques that I had before I even started listening to what anyone else had to say, it was disappointing. Not as many as Kenobi, which sucks in its own right, but it definitely has some. But yeah, I agree. I think pretty much all the shows we've been getting, and I'm sure even to some degree Mando, although Mando will probably be in a better space, are sort of subjected to this lesser morality that's kind of surrounding Star Wars. So
for sure, I think there's actually anticipation there is anticipation to Mando. I suppose of any other new series that comes out, it's always what's going to happen, how are they going to treat it. But with Mando, I just see general excitement, which is cool.
Which, yeah, I mean, there's something to be said there too. It's like with Boba Fett, it was kind of like, well, the last time that they handled a legacy character was the sequels, and most people are like, yeah, they botched Luke, which is accurate. And then with Book of Boba Fett, it's like, oh man, I hope they don't like botch Boba, and I mean, more or less they do. And so then when Kenobi came around, it was like, oh my gosh, like now you have Kenobi and Anakin. These are very, very precious legacy characters. Like it's messing them up was like, it would be like messing up Luke. Like it's just wrong. Like these are people that represent the fabric of Star Wars in some regard. And yeah, they kind of, dropped the ball a little bit there too. So, I mean, not so much with Anakin. I think they did a good job. I think they underutilized him, but I don't want to get into the Kenobi tangent because that's an easy one to.
I was just about to say something, but I'm like, yeah, I'll keep my mouth shut so we don't run into a whole new topic.
But okay, so you liked the first episode. I would agree. I liked the first episode of Book of Boba Fett, and it left me excited for more. I was actually so excited with the first 2 episodes that even though they kind of drag out the whole flashback in the desert stuff for like the first, I think, 4 episodes, like. Yeah, I was getting tired by that point, but I was still pretty excited, even by the end of that kind of arc within the show. So, well, cool. Looking forward to hearing more of what you have to say about the, future episodes. The first ones are kind of like really setting the pace and building a lot, so it'll be interesting when you get to the episodes where things really start happening.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. I do think just the clips I've seen and just kind of how crazy it becomes, I really hope the pacing doesn't. I really enjoy the pacing currently. Yeah. I think it just feels very character driven, and I'm really a fan of that. So I hope it doesn't stir too far off that. I know it does, but I'm really enjoying it, and I'm excited to talk about it in the next podcast next week.
Oh yeah, if she could. All right. I had to put a little bit of time into this graphic, even though it's rather simple. I completely changed last week's ranking chart, and I made we added a 6th place because I included 6 characters, whereas last week we were just ranking 5 shows, and it was I was like, I kind of wish I had made a column for your picks because I know we were going back and forth, but as far as the actual visual element, we could only see mine. So I did see that. I created a column for you as well that I will be, as you give your rankings, I will be throwing them in there for you because I'm just that kind.
Thank you so much. My opinion is valued.
Yes, it is valued more than just vocally. It's also valued visually here, so you're welcome. You probably actually, to be honest, gave more thought to this than I was able to because, well, I've been kind of crazy busy. So we have 6 characters. This is specifically ranking their arcs or their development over their time within the series of all Star Wars. And they're all just, I mean, we're talking like S-tier people. Probably all of these folks come up in people's top character list. So Luke Skywalker, Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Yoda, my boy, Ahsoka, and Maul. I wanted to throw one Sith in there. I figured Vader could have been, but it's like Vader and Anakin's development is one and the same. So you could treat Anakin like Anakin Vader. Palpatine's cool, but I think like Maul is probably a big fan favorite of like
for sure.
Siths. Yeah. What were you gonna say? I'm sorry.
I was gonna say when I think of Anakin, I put him in the same boat as Darth Vader.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
When I rate his character, it's it's his everything that is him, including his arcs.
Perfect. So I want to do the order the same, like 6th through 3rd place, and then we'll give our 1st place pick because process elimination 2nd place. Do you have an idea of who your 6th place person is?
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna let you go first because I'm hoping while you talk, I can also listen and figure out my answer.
Well, this one's going to be a hot take. I know a lot of
Ooh.
people probably won't agree with it. And before I say what it is, you're good to figure out as I explain. But
Oh, good. Okay.
I did not watch all of the animated Clone series.
Ah, I already know who it is.
I did not watch all of it. I did watch a ton, but I was also like in fourth grade or something like that. I was very young, so I did not really come to appreciate particular characters. That being said, the live action adaptation I've been iffy on. Ahsoka. Ahsoka is my last place character. Doesn't have a place in my heart like that. I wish she did. The emotional kind of aspect to her character and her master being Anakin. I know she's a very amazing character, but I just haven't gotten that yet from the live action adaptations I've seen of her. I do know it is coming, hopefully, with her new live action show coming out. But yeah, she just doesn't. I just don't know. I need to see more of her, I guess, to really. I know she's amazing, but she just, she's there.
She doesn't have that place in your heart. That's fair. I get it. Yeah,
Yep.
the second you said I haven't seen all the Clone Wars series and I laughed, I literally moved her to your sixth place spot before you said anything else. I was like, I know where this is going. Okay. I think my sixth place choice is actually going to surprise you, Jacoby. Do you want to guess
think so.
who? Do you want to guess who my sixth place is?
Yeah, Darth Maul.
Okay. You are going to be surprised. Because I'm thinking about character arc and development, and this is really going to shock you. My sixth place out of this list is actually Yoda.
Whoa!
So, if you're not familiar with my content or myself, Yoda is very much arguably my favorite character. He kind of sits in a pocket with Luke where I go back and forth, but yeah, definitely.
Wait, so what are we rating these characters on?
I'm rating
Sorry to
them.
interrupt you.
No, that's okay. Like they're how I think about it is like how they develop as a character through the entirety of their presence in the series. And the reason I pick Yoda as last because I appreciate his character so much. I feel like he's so far into his life. Not that he didn't grow still in the amount of time that we saw him. I just feel like out of everybody else, he had the least amount of reason and need to develop. I think once Order 66 happened and he obviously became very aware of his short-sightedness, he did grow and he did change, but we see a lot of his similar kind of dogmatic viewpoints in the original trilogy with Luke and his approach to Luke. Like, he's too young to be trained, like very matter of fact with how like one falls to the dark side. Like, he still kind of had a lot of that dogma in a sense, which is probably mostly based in truth, based on his experience, but he's just so developed already by the time he's introduced. I just don't feel like how we watch him, he's definitely a very well-developed character already, so that's why I kind of put him 6. Obviously, I love his story and I love what he represents because he's one of my favorites, but that's why he's my 6th for this very specific ranking.
Okay, I was under the impression we were going off who you like the most.
Well, hey, you can do that too. That's fine.
That's what I'll do. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I'm specifically like my appreciation for their development. That's kind of how I'm looking at it.
Okay.
I surprised Jacob too, apparently. He just commented.
Is it time for me to get my next spot?
I think so. And you're 5th place.
So you know what I'm now you know what I'm rating my characters off.
Mm-hmm.
So who do you think my 5th place is?
I think your 5th place would be Yoda.
And you would be right. As not mean disliking him or nothing. Honestly, I love every character that we've been proposed here, but with his character, I've just never been a person that's I won't say goody two shoes, but more just like the Boy Scout, I guess.
Okay.
I know that's probably a terrible way to like say who he is, but
he's kind of the representation of absolute good in the series for sure.
Yeah, and I've never been too much of a fan on that, mainly because I think, going back on what you said, when there are characters that are kind of the representation of good, there's not much development that's really had with that character.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, there are characters where they have development. Maybe they are battled with the consequences of always being good. But we haven't really been, at least I haven't really seen that happen with Yoda. So because of that, yeah, Yoda is taking a backseat at number 5. Love him, love the little green guy, but he's gonna have to chill at number 5 for that reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not surprised by the answer. That seems fair. That seems real fair. Okay, you're not gonna believe it, but guess who my number 5th pick is? Or my number. Wait.
5.
I'm backtracking though. I got caught up. I was mixing up two people. I was gonna say Ahsoka, but that's not true because that's not who I was gonna say. But I was like, look, we just swapped them. But I don't know. My brain.
Oh no, I think it's Darth Vader. I mean Darth Maul.
You would be 100% correct, and honestly, by a fine margin, Maul's arc is so cool, especially because. Obviously he came back in Clone Wars and they just totally interlace him with Kenobi. Like they do a dance the whole time, and bringing him back in Rebels, he was a big part of Rebels, and he was so cool there. Like you really see him step into this. I know more about what's going on in the galaxy than pretty much most of the people in the galaxy do. And I'm trying to completely bend that to my advantage, but from like the shadows, super neat. And then he's a huge part of what Kenobi's development. Obviously, he completely F's with Kenobi's life in more ways than one. And then their beautiful, beautiful final battle on Tatooine in Rebels. It's so good. Like, he has a great story, and I love Maul. So this is not me saying that it's subpar, obviously, because I put his development above Yoda, and Yoda's one of my favorite characters. So, clearly I'm not bagging on the guy. But when I held him up against the other characters on this list, I was like, it's so good, but it doesn't have the extra, like, salt and pepper that I was looking for, I guess.
And we love our seasonings.
Yes, we do. Seasonings are important.
Does this mean we go to my next place?
I think we're good. More? No, I think that's pretty much what I want to say about Maul.
All right, I'm not gonna lie, I am enjoying the guessing game.
It is kind of fun. Jacob just said, "Is this all characters? If so, Rey would be my last pick." Are you telling me, Jacob, that if you had all of Star Wars? Oh, you're saying last pick out of everybody. Okay, never mind. I was thinking you were saying you would put her in 6th place. I'm like, out of all of Star Wars, you would give her top 10? Are you kidding me? No, we're just doing 6 characters specifically. But your 4th place pick. Who do I think? Okay, so you have Maul, Luke, Anakin, and Obi-Wan left.
Yep.
Okay, I'm teetering between 2, and I'm gonna say Kenobi. No, frick. I'm gonna say Luke.
That's. Yeah, give me a second. Give me a second here, okay?
Okay. Let's hear this.
Pull up the list so I can really get this straight. Yeah, you'd be right. It is Luke. It is Luke. And I'm going to sound like a total hater because I do enjoy the originals. I love the originals, in fact.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched them more times than I can count. That being said, I'll always be in the boat where I feel like the projection of Luke's character wasn't fully thought out before A New Hope was made.
Mm.
I think that's valid. I think that happens all the time in creating processes. But I don't think, I hate the fact that he kissed Leia. Just gives me the heebie-jeebies. And,
yeah.
I really hate him in the recent films.
Sure.
And I hate the fact that I do have to rate him off everything that I've been given.
Right. That's
That being
fair.
said, is the live action. So yeah, I was really disappointed with the live action that we got in the sequels. But he has kind of recently fallen, at least with what we're seeing in Mandalorian. He's kind of falling into that very stoic character, very goody two shoes in a way, and which is fine. I love those. Those characters have their place in stories, and there's characters that I actually love that are very stoic in the sense that they're always good, like Captain America and all that. But they just never really appeal to me. I do like a little more edgy characters, you could say.
Mm-hmm. It's fair.
So yeah, that is the placement I give him.
As a friend of Jacoby's, I can confirm he does prefer the slightly more edgy characters. It's a very fun place where him and I differ in our initial preferences with characters. It makes things very interesting because neither one of us hate the other kind of character. We just have a different natural preference. So, okay. I like the guessing game too. Who do you think I'm going to put for my fourth?
Oh, that's gonna be Ahsoka.
So I've been teetering between two, and I actually have to agree with you on your fourth place pick and put Luke.
Oh wow.
Which is also surprising because, as I mentioned before, Luke and Yoda are like my top favorite characters. But especially considering the sequels, where I think they de-evolved his character, where it's not even de-evolved because Luke was never like that really in the first place. They just completely. It was like he had some random weird experience that just broke his character entirely and just randomly for about a year changed who he was, like just completely. I think even if you take that out, no, this placing is because of that. Because if I was just going off of OT Luke, he'd probably be my number one or number two. Because watching him go from farm boy Luke to redeemer of his father Luke, I'm not gonna cry. That's for Friday's video. But when you take into consideration all of that and the fact that I don't know, because he wasn't painted as like a perfect character. He definitely was kind of reckless in a lot of ways. He was definitely overwhelmingly good and innately made the right decisions. So that's very true. But honestly, only reason he's in fourth place is because of the sequels. Like, I'll just be completely transparent. I just couldn't put him higher because I had to consider that, and I was like, they just trashed on him. So that's my fourth.
I think that's completely valid, and it's tough to not implement what happens in the sequels, because those are Star Wars, and no matter how much we hate it, we have to accept the fact that that's Star Wars. That's what we've been given. That's what we've seen Luke do. Yep. And no matter how much we hate it, it happened.
It's so true, and it's one of the dumbest pills I've had to swallow in my life. But I mean, like I said, if I was just going off of original trilogy and now Mando Luke, oh yeah, I mean, he would have been a shoo-in for first for sure, but definitely at least second place. I'm trying to think of who I think you're gonna pick for third now. So you have Ahsoka, Yoda, Luke, which means you have Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Maul. I'll be honest.
You know I like my edgy characters. I'll just say that.
You do like your edgy characters, so that I'm almost certain I know who your first place is. It's your second and third place, and I'm thinking just because of how much you like your edgy characters, that third place is gonna be Kenobi for you.
And you would be wrong. I would never do that to my man Kenobi.
So it's Maul.
Come on, man. It is Maul.
That was the two that I wasn't sure. Wasn't sure.
So yeah, no, I love Maul. Really, really cool character. Just the Duel of Fates too. You've actually really opened my eyes up to that battle. We talked about just the meaning behind that fight. How much weight came behind it, and that itself made me really go like, wow, Darth Maul's him.
Yeah, he's the guy.
And he's the guy, and I do love his arc. As I've said, I did not watch all the shows, but I did watch a lot of Maul. I did watch little videos, like just clips, edits, I guess, that go over his entire evolution, which I guess isn't really saying much given how much he really has out there. But yeah, I really, really like him as a character. I love my edgy guys too. I love people that are kind of in the darkness, and they kind of just go through it, and you're just hoping they make it out, even if they are. If I can care for a person that's bad, I think that's good writing.
That is good writing. Maul was really well written. He's kind of like an anti-villain in a lot of ways. Like, he's definitely bad, and his intentions are bad, and like all that, but he also really directly opposes the main evil. Like, a lot of his scheming with like the underground world and trying to take over a lot of like the crime world and stuff like that was to essentially amount to his own power to oppose Palpatine. Like, and the fact that he knew what his plans were, but he was trying to scheme and like undermine them without, outright exposing himself. He's super smart. Like, I love that because he's, represented as this ruthless assassin, which he is, baller, but they also made him extremely intelligent and crafty. He was kind of like, in a lot of ways, I guess you could say a lesser Palpatine in that way. Very cunning. I think the two kind of biggest drawbacks to him opposed to Palpatine was, I think Palpatine is definitely in a tier of his own as far as wisdom goes that Maul just couldn't touch. And then Palpatine was way more patient, where Maul was a lot more kind of haughty and reckless. And that's probably the biggest separator between the two of them. But nevertheless, Maul was very successful in a lot of the things he did, even though ultimately he always failed.
And the fact that he always failed, too, is also what made me love him so much. I don't, successful characters are great, but if a character is always failing, then you're always wanting them to succeed.
That's a good point, too. In some ways, it's more relatable, too. Like, not necessarily that we always fail in everything we do, but it can definitely feel like that sometimes.
All right, I'm ready to guess yours.
Okay, yeah. What do you think my number 3 is going to be?
I guess it's Ahsoka.
And you, good sir, would be right.
I probably would have been just blown away if you said I was wrong.
Yeah, if I would have put Ahsoka above Obi-Wan or Anakin.
Would have been crazy.
Yeah, that would have been crazy. I won't lie, for half a second I considered it earlier on. But no, I was pretty certain about this decision. So pretty much all of Ahsoka's arc is throughout Clone Wars, and now that we got Tales of the Jedi, and I guess the live action stuff, but she's kind of been a supporting character in the live action, whereas Tales was another focused exploration of her character in every other episode. And it's kind of cool because she almost had a real life character arc as well. Because when Clone Wars first came out and they first introduced Ahsoka, I mean, I wasn't super in the in crowd of the Star Wars at the time, but I do remember most people were like, oh, who's this annoying little girl? To, she's probably the most, if not amongst the most beloved female characters in Star Wars. She's amongst the most beloved characters in Star Wars, female or not, which is cool. So, like, a real life character development in the sense of the eyes of the fans. But also in the show, she does kind of go from, like, this annoying little girl, which in all fairness, it's exactly what she was. She was, like, 13 or so, to not just, like, skill-wise. That's the other thing, too. It's cool when people develop their skills. And Ahsoka clearly is one of the highest tier Jedi to come out of the era. And obviously after the fall of the Order, being amongst the few left, she's clearly amongst the best there, but I think even when the Order was standing, like where she ends up by the time of the live action stuff, she would have easily been on par, if not above, most of the Masters, in my opinion. So that's really neat. But with her character, it's kind of neat to see as well. She being under Anakin and it's kind of like it's kind of like when you're the younger sibling or the youngest sibling, and the stereotypical, like, you watch your older sibling mess up a lot, but you don't just watch them mess up, you kind of like idolize them, so you get their like bad traits that can lead them to successful places, but you just learn the ways to not mess it up like they do. Like, that's her with Anakin. Like, she gets a lot of
For
his
sure.
yeah, like all of his hard-headedness and his less than traditional kind of approach to everything. That's super good, especially because of how, again, dogmatic the Jedi were of the time. Like, they were so successful in all their missions because they sort of blurred a lot of lines. But she also kind of was influenced by Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan was like rule boy to a T most of the time. And so she kind of gets the best of both worlds in a lot of ways. Like, having two good parents, I suppose, is another good way to put it. And then, I don't know, like, Tales of the Jedi really, she was already such a beloved character, and she was already in like an S tier status to me, just with the end of Clone Wars. Like, season 7 is amazing. It mostly follows her and during that time, the last few years of the Republic, or the last few months of the Republic, really. And then Tales, like, we get the episode where she's on the run, not really trying to cause a scene or draw any attention to herself, and then the Inquisitor visits the village and like it's burning down. That super epic scene where she gets her moment of, this is going to be a quick battle because I outclass you so significantly. And yes, that again comes back to her skill level, which again, super cool, but it also shows, when I feel like with the Jedi, when they get to that point where they're like, I am stoic when I battle now, you just know, like, they just stepped into that next tier. Like, you're not catching them, you're not fighting them, like, this isn't gonna go good for you. And she doesn't even pull out a saber. She literally just disarms this dude, knees him, and just cuts him down like it's nothing. Like, completely in a whole another class of her own, which is, it's beautiful, and I appreciate it, and I appreciate her character.
When you say stoic, in terms of fighting, I think of Mace Windu.
Yeah.
Man, was him. It was probably a good thing you didn't have that man on that list. I'm a Mace Windu stan.
I need to read Shatterpoint. I have it. It's sitting in my book, or my nightstand, and I really want to read it, but I'm just reading other books right now. It's all about Mace and his abilities.
Oh yeah, that sounds like a good read. We're on my top 2 now.
I'm going to talk about him in our next segment, so look forward to that.
Ooh.
Okay, your top 2. You have...
I just have 2 people left.
You have Anakin and Obi-Wan. Okay, I'm just going to go with it. I guess
we're doing...
Number 1. Yeah. I think your number 1 pick is Anakin.
You know... I actually did think about this a lot, and I don't think there's really a right answer because they're so close.
It is
true. So incredibly close, but just because of the arcs, the comics that really add more depth to this character, it's got to be Anakin.
It's got to be.
I love his character. Well, can I just? I guess. No, I'll just talk about Anakin. It's tough not to talk about him and Obi just because they're so connected.
I mean, you can kind of answer both because obviously we know Obi-Wan's your number 2 choice.
Well, Anakin edges out Obi-Wan Kenobi, and that is just simply because the development to his arc, the comics gave me so much more to appreciate about him. His discovery of Luke and everything, it was just so amazing, and seeing how traumatized he is from what he's gone through, and almost trying to shut that feeling out. There's so much to his character that I absolutely love. I am attracted to a person that is struggling in general. I think a struggler, there's more to it because you want to see that struggler find the light, as opposed to a person that's already in the light. But going to my second place was Kenobi, and I see Kenobi is essentially the essence of the characters I'm not a fan of. like the goody two shoes in a way. But I think the way he's written with the goody two shoes is he is the perfect example of, like I said earlier, are characters that go through arcs where they see how being the goody two shoes is the main battle. If you do the right thing, how are you able to stick to your core when all this stuff is falling down on you? And he sees that with Anakin. He has his own personal battles with, was I the right master for him? Trying to live up to what Qui-Gon could have been. So Qui-Gon could have done for him.
Right.
And, it was just an amazing character. Being a goody two-shoes and seeing a person fall in the Kenobi show. Like, those first few episodes, seeing him struggle, it was, you don't want to see the good guy struggle, because you don't ever see the goody two-shoes really struggle. So I'm seeing Kenobi struggle. I just want him to get out of it so badly, which is good. I want to feel that way. I want to feel a connection to a character where I'm like, please get to the light. It wasn't your fault. Like,
yeah.
So yeah, that is actually the big factor when it comes to goody two shoes. The Boy Scout characters are they a Boy Scout? Okay. Do they have to go through battles where being a Boy Scout is holding them back? And I think he does find himself in situations where being the Boy Scout, being the guy that follows the rules, he has to firsthand see the effects that it has and not let it affect his core.
That's good.
That's why it's so tough, because like they're always not like the edgy character. They don't have to. To constitute a character for me like him isn't being edgy, but it's I just want them to have an arc where they are battling something internally.
Yeah, it's more relatable that way for sure.
So yeah, I absolutely love Kenobi and absolutely love Anakin. So
good answer.
That is the rating.
Good reasons. Good answers. Good reasons. All right, what do you think my number one, number two is? Same two characters.
This one is really, really, really tough. Man, I think. Oh, I really don't know, man. I think I'm gonna have to take. I'm gonna take the guess that I know you like. I'm gonna say your first place is Kenobi.
Okay, that's fair. This is another place where we definitely agree, actually. I think a lot of how you went about approaching this is similar to me, and how close it is for you. I feel like it's very close for me. I want to talk about Kenobi first, and why I think his character development is so amazing. What you were saying, I agree with. I want to draw a little bit more focus on part of something you mentioned, and that Kenobi was the rule follower. That's was his biggest headbutt with his master Qui-Gon, who was not a rule follower, and he was very to his principles, a man of his word in a lot of ways. But like you said, we see him struggle with that and how it holds him back. But the other way that he struggles with that, there's a good episode in the the Clone Wars where Satine, the current ruler of Mandalore, is kind of like his Padme, right? His secret love affair. They don't take it to the extent that Anakin and Padme do, but that's the love of his life. And there's a moment in the episode where he tells Satine that if she had ever asked him to leave the Order, he would have said yes. And she basically reveals that that's the reason she never did, because what she loves and values about him so much is how true he is to his beliefs, that she couldn't be the person to take him away from that. So that was a super interesting kind of spotlight shown onto the character of Kenobi. The person, some of the people closest to him, could appreciate that just like we appreciate it as the audience. What's also, I think, the biggest thing that's amazing about his character and how we kind of see him get pushed for being that character is, like you said, he has tragedy and he suffers. First of all, Maul kills his master, right? We all know that happens. And then he actually taps into the dark side. I believe this is written in the novelization of The Phantom Menace, where he actually tapped into the dark side for that moment, and that's how he was able to defeat Maul. But that didn't like dissuade him. He didn't fall to the dark side, because that's how devout he was to his beliefs, that even though he had tapped into it, and Yoda would have said, forever would it dominate your destiny, it didn't dominate Kenobi's destiny. In fact, it made him better. Where it's kind of where he breaks the rules a little bit, unknowingly and unintentionally. And then Maul comes back, murders the love of his life, Satine. Same thing, like that would push most people. I mean, the fear of that is what pushed Anakin to the dark side. The murder of Padme, or the death of Padme. And then he watches his entire order and way of life get ripped apart in front of him. All of his friends and mentors and peers murdered by people that he considered friends and peers, all right, the clones. And then he has to go into exile, where he is reduced from this highly respected master and in a highly respected, place in society, a general of a great war and all this jazz, to a hermit in the desert, hated by, the people he has to protect, aside from Luke, who doesn't really understand anything. And because of his beliefs and his conviction of those, he freaking just trucks through. Like, I don't know how. He goes and lives on a shizzy planet that ages him like crap. He goes from beautiful space Jesus to an old man in like 10 years. But he just remains. But through that, you see him kind of grow. Like it's represented probably the best in that Rebels episode with Maul, where he enters that kind of S tier, grand Jedi, where he's just that stoic. I don't have anything to prove. I am sure of my convictions. I'm sure of my abilities, and I'm sure of what's right. And it feels so earned with his character. The fact that he clearly doesn't have it all figured out the whole way. Like, he believes what he believes, and I think he believes he knows what's right is right. But it takes him going through all that hardship, and like how you said, being held back by his kind of rule followingness, to finally have that affirmed through his life experiences, which is so cool. But it's just not quite there like it is with Anakin. Like, he just
there's the rating.
Oh my gosh, it's just a hair below. And again, like, I agree with what a lot you said about Anakin. Anakin has such a freaking awesome arc, and it's such a good one to see, because we watch him go from high potential good to like, oh wow, does he ever really become good? We watch him be this edgy bad boy rule breaker, to absolute evil, to complete pure redeemed goodness, to really oversimplify his arc. And everything that happens during that, I mean, I guess he has an unfair advantage, because his life literally is like the cornerstone of the fate of the galaxy. Like, everything that's true about him becomes true about the galaxy. Like, he's born into slavery in a really rough time in the galaxy. At that time, most of the galaxy was also suffering, on the brink of war and all that. He gets brought up into the Jedi. He is this sort of, in a lot of ways, like an outcast, because he learns faster than everybody else. A lot of people are envious of him. A lot of people don't trust him. Like, so much is uncertain surrounding Anakin as a Jedi. And just like the galaxy is so uncertain, like the Clone Wars happens, and there's so much corruption, and there's no obvious like right or wrong anymore. Just like with Anakin's life, there's no obvious right or wrong. Like, his whole struggle is, what is ultimately good here, because what I'm experiencing, what I'm feeling, does not align with what the Jedi are saying is absolutely true. And that's his whole kind of tension throughout that whole part of his life. And then the galaxy simultaneously exists in this tension within this war. And they are unaware of it, but it's because there's an evil puppeteer just pulling the strings, making it such for both the galaxy and Anakin. And then he has his fall, which really screws everything up for everybody. I mean, he betrays everything and everybody that he's ever known. And the galaxy is ultimately the ones to suffer because of it. And again, drawing this parallels between himself and the galaxy is suffering terribly, and so is Anakin as Vader. Like, his life is perpetual suffering. His suit makes him in pain. He can't sleep. All he's reminded of is the things he lost, and that he is the reason, like complete utter self-loathing. And then the beautiful story of Luke comes in. I don't want to get into this because it'll make me cry, but Luke comes in and rekindles that light. You know, he is the new hope. He's the new hope for Anakin. He's the new hope for the galaxy. And when Anakin has his return to the light, the galaxy has its return to the light. So you can't really, even though all these characters in their own light have really amazing development, you just can't compete with a character whose very development is a direct metaphor for the galaxy that he's written in. So that rant over, off my soapbox. That's why I pick him for number 1.
Nice. And going kind of more into his character, because earlier in this we talked about whether he should be his own character or not in terms of ranking, being an Anakin and a Darth Vader. Which I think it's clear that Anakin and Darth Vader should be in the same boat, because it makes it that's what makes his character so amazing, in the sense that his character arc was so fluent and so smooth. Not really fluent, but it was so smooth that he became this other guy, Darth Vader. And it wasn't like jarring or anything like that when he made this transition. We all kind of saw this steady climb to the darkness. Mm-hmm. And the fact that it wasn't jarring, we were able to see this whole new side to him. But at the same time, it's so different, where you do have to make this discussion where it's like, is that Anakin or is it Darth Vader? But, there is not really a right or wrong answer. I mean, at the end of the day, though, it's both of them. So I think if you're talking about Anakin, you're talking about his arcs. It just wouldn't really make much sense if we were to cut it off at the end of that stage in his life.
Yes.
And say, okay, he's done. His character's done. It's like, no, because you do see him also come back to the light. It's all him. Everything about it is him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, he's an amazing character.
Yes. Jacob said Anakin is number 1. Clearly we agree. Yeah, I know a lot of comment talk, like, and I do this too, and I don't think it's wrong to do it. And I don't, to preface this, I don't think that's what you were saying either, that this is wrong, but like to talk about Anakin and Vader as separate people. But it's like exactly how you put it. It's the fact that the development is so significant that it's like they're two different people, and the dichotomy between like the lifestyle of the two of them is amazing. Even though, like as you said, we see these gradual climbs build up to Vader, that Anakin does, it still is like in the midst of his mistakes, he's still very much Anakin. There's so much goodness in him. So absolutely, I agree. Okay, the final topic. So this one's kind of cool. Let me clear a few things here. Just hide all. Oh, come on. Stream elements. There we go. We'll clear that. So the final one, this is kind of just a fun little tidbit here, but choosing rare Force abilities. So I gave us a list of 5 Force abilities, and I'll kind of explain them all in a little bit more detail, at least to the best of my knowledge. We have Shatterpoint, which we were talking about Mace Windu a little bit ago. Psychometry, Electric Judgment. I do not actually know how to pronounce this one right, but it's Crucitorn or Krukatorn. I don't know. It's a weird one.
Yes, of course.
And then Battle Meditation. I'm gonna say that we can pick 2 out of this list, but let me explain just for everybody and yourself and I for refreshers of what each of these are. So Shatterpoint was probably one of the rarest ones on this list, to my knowledge. Most notably used by Mace Windu. What Shatterpoint allowed him to do is he could, with the Force, pinpoint a weakness in his opponent, what would be described as the shatter point in the opponent, and he could exploit that to essentially win the engagement. But it wasn't just in like, he couldn't just see the weakness in maybe somebody's fighting style. He could also see it in like significant moments in time and like events unrolling. So there's talks like surrounding the episode 2, Attack of the Clones, when they're on Geonosis, and he's with Jango and Dooku. Goodness, I can't think of people's names there. Where he was actually able to see that moment as the shatter point for the upcoming war to unravel. And anyways, I don't want to get super into that, but that's kind of the idea of this ability. Super OP. It's also why a lot of people attribute him to like being able to beat Palpatine, because he could see Palpatine shatter point. Okay. Next one is psychometry. This was introduced, I believe this was when it was introduced, at least it's when it's most famous now, Cal Kestis in Jedi, oh my goodness, Fallen Order. This is the ability to sense the history of like an object through the Force, and you could learn information, conversations surrounding it, all kinds of things, where you could pull that history from the object with the Force. Electric Judgment, so this is kind of described as yellow or green Force lightning. It depends on who you like ask in universe. So Palpatine would say it's just a lesser, weaker form of Force lightning. Most of the Jedi of the prequel era would say that it's too close to the dark side to be used, but there was actually a couple masters who used it. I can't remember the popular one off the top of my head who would use it, but it wouldn't actually like destroy the person's body like Force lightning would. It would just, it's kind of like a Wonder Woman's whip, how it like would compel them to tell the truth and it was uncomfortable not to. Similar idea, but it was still kind of electrocuting them.
Torture.
I mean, it's open. It's a gray area. That's an ethical question.
It fucks you, and you're compelled to tell them the truth. Tell me where they are.
Yoda would probably say yes, but Palpatine would say, if it's torture, it's treason. Then I don't know. Okay, so Crucitorn, or however it's pronounced, forgive me, is basically pain management, but it meant that you could how is it written? You can change how pain is perceived, meaning if you broke your arm, you could make that feel like getting flicked in the arm for yourself, or if you merely gave your opponent, let's say, a paper cut, you could make it feel like they broke their arm. Does that make sense?
Oh my goodness.
Okay. And then the last one is battle meditation. This is talked a lot about in a lot of Legends books. A lot of the ones I've been reading, it comes up. It's kind of super cool. At the beginning of the Bane trilogy, there's this big battle happening between the Brotherhood of Darkness and the Army of the Light. And Khan is literally doing battle meditation, and this was used on both sides, light and dark. But they would battle meditate, and like so in a space battle with ships, what it would do is it would lift the morale of your side, your troops. It would lower the morale of the other side, and it wouldn't just like mentally do this, although it would do that. It was like it was almost like someone was putting depression on your brain and then like putting mania on your team's brain. It would also give you the false perception of like multiple amounts of enemy forces. So if there was like 40 ships in the in space that you could see opposing your forces, it would look like there was 140 ships. Like their numbers would just look so overwhelming, and you would see them, like all of the troops would see them. And a lot of these ancient battles, what would happen is you'd have like really powerful Sith masters and Jedi masters literally trying to counter each other's battle meditation. It's really neat power, super draining of strength and energy. And that is all 5 of them. I'll let you chew on those for a minute, If you need some time, I can answer and pick my two first.
I think I know mine.
Okay, I want to hear yours first then, because I'm curious.
I think it is Shatterpoint,
Mm-hmm.
as well as well for Electric Judgment. How does it work when you use it?
Same way as Force Lightning.
So I can use it as I'm swinging my saber around.
Yes, as long as you're not, like a beta Jedi.
I do. I would say I do love battle meditation. I think that has a lot of value if you are like in a commander or you're working with people. But I'm not a war guy. I don't think whatever world I'm in, I'll ever be a war person. I'm not much military. I think at the end of the day, people are getting hurt, so I don't like to be in that situation.
Fair.
I will say because of that, I think I'm gonna. I don't know. Actually, I'm going to do that because in case I don't want to hurt someone, I can just give them a little prick and be like, and make up some sort of lie, and just to make them feel like they're feeling way more pain than they are.
Yeah. So Shatterpoint and Crucitorn. That's how I'm going to pronounce it.
Oh wait, which is? Okay, so you explain now fairly quick. That one and battle meditation are totally different.
Yes.
Okay, then I guess I would do battle meditation. I mean, not meditation. Crucitome.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Why Shatterpoint? I mean, I feel like I could answer that, but I want to hear your reasons.
Well, when I think of being able to just read someone, right? That just screams stoic, and it screams Mace Windu.
Yeah.
And I feel like my last resort would want to be violence if I was ever in this world, right?
Right.
So I would, those are both things I think would just help me avoid violence and just more be like, okay, this guy is incredibly powerful. We don't want to mess with him, and that's the person I want to be.
Okay.
I want to be able to read. I want to be able to read them like a book, and then just have them stunned by the things I'm saying. Like, I can name off their weak points, and they're like, "Oh man, yeah, I don't know if I want to mess with this guy." And then I could just touch them once, and make it feel like their head's being slashed.
Yeah, that is pretty powerful.
So that is my choice.
Okay. Jacob said that he'd want the second one, psychometry, seeing the history of objects and then become the world's greatest detective. Jacob would become Batman in the Star Wars universe.
Now that sounds sick.
He added, picks up knife, sees that it was the murder weapon. That would be kind of a, like with Star Wars Visions, how it's basically not tied to having to be canon whatsoever, and each studio gets their own episode to write their own unique take on Star Wars. One of them should totally do it with a Jedi detective that has psychometry.
It would be pretty cool.
I would watch that. I mean, it wouldn't be the most Star Wars-y thing in the world, but that's not the point of Visions, so that's a good place to do it. Okay. So for mine, I think Shatterpoint is like a must on this list. I could see why people maybe wouldn't, maybe pick something else over it, but if I only had two to choose from, Shatterpoint is so freaking OP, not only in the moment, but like if you are involved in significant moments for the galaxy and you are able to pinpoint that, oh my gosh, I don't even know like how to imagine the applications of something like that. I think it's completely invaluable. There's no way I could pass that up, and that probably is also why it's so rare to have. So my second one, I mean, Electric Judgment's neat. Like, if to be a Jedi and to know that it like wouldn't coerce you to wanting to like fall to the dark side, that seems valuable to me. The problem I applied to it is like
it does feel like torture to me.
Yeah, that's part of it, and then the other part is like, oh well, that's good of you. That's not why I didn't choose it. I think about like opposing other Force sensitives. And like the whole reason like Force sensitives don't go and like Force choke each other all the time and what is because they all have their Force shields up, and you have to severely like overpower them in the Force to break that. So like Electric Judgment, if you got somebody like when they were maybe tired or caught him off guard, you could use it. But just in the heat of a battle, if you're going off against another Force sensitive, likely wouldn't be very effective. Psychometry is cool, but I feel like it served Cal well because of the time he was living in. Like, there wasn't the grand freaking library of the Jedi Council to give you all this information. So in times like that, I guess it allows you to be very self-reliant. Well, basically what I'm coming down to is I'm debating between Battle Meditation and Crucitorn. Crucitorn's interesting, but I think I have to apply the whole Force Barrier again. And Battle Meditation, like, it's just so cool to me. And okay, that's it. Shatterpoint.
I did think of the Force Shield.
Shatterpoint. Battle
You say
Meditation.
Shatterpoint?
Yeah.
I like it. I thought of the Force Shield. The thing is, I thought about it. I'm like, there's so many people in the galaxy that aren't Jedis.
It's true.
And I just know there'd be a lot of raiders, something like that. A lot of people that do want to, like, rob me or, anything really. So yeah, I did that one just because I knew I'd run into a lot of randoms, and the randoms, people that aren't Jedis or Siths, those would be the easiest people to be like, hey man, your arm's broken.
It's true. I feel like too,
because
knowing
those
you,
are the people. Huh?
I was gonna say, like, I feel like knowing you, like, I feel even if you were a Jedi in the time of the Republic, I feel like you would have opted to be one of the ones that's like out exploring the galaxy. So a lot of what you would have come
100%.
across would be just like normal kind of, creatures and such.
Well, when I think of myself in this world, if I were ever like, a Jedi, my mind it never goes to me being in a setting where I'm like part of a council or any that kind of stuff. It always goes to me just pretty much being a vagabond.
Okay. Yeah. I think your picks are perfect then for that. See, I don't know like where I would place myself in the galaxy. I don't think I'd want to be on the council either, but I feel like I am reading the Bane trilogy right now, and like you learn about General Hoth, who was the Jedi Master who started the Army of the Light to basically oppose the Dark Brotherhood. And he's like leading this grand army against literally an army of Sith and Sith followers, which is really cool. And I'm like, I don't know if I'd even want to be him. Like, I feel he had like a number 2. His name's like Farfella or something like that. Who, not to a T, I'd want to be his character, but he's involved, like affluent, I guess you could say, and I don't know. Like, there's. Oh God, I don't know where I want to put myself, because the more I talk about it, the more I'm like, God, I don't really want that either. I feel like Shatterpoint.
We could just make it.
I feel like Shatterpoint is significant enough and helpful enough in both kind of like a singular one-on-one moment, and then also in like a grander scale moment, and then Battle Meditation. Because I feel like as a Jedi, I could probably handle myself in pretty much any single one-on-one, or like me versus a small group of people, just with my abilities.
Because I'm one of the best Jedis.
Well, even just being a Jedi, like if you're coming across like raiders, like come on, like most Jedi could probably take on a handful of raiders. And if I have Shatterpoint, I'm at least very attuned with the Force innately, because that is not an easy ability. And so I'm like, okay, I feel like between those two things I'd be good. And then if it came to the point where like, if I'm like Luke and I'm just getting thrusted into the middle of this grand excursion, like imagine the first battle with the Death Star. If they had some baller Jedi doing some Battle Meditation and the Empire's like, I thought we were the biggest force in the galaxy, where do the rebels get all this stuff, and like the Emperor has having to like bust out some ancient Sith alchemy to oppose me, like that feels pretty baller. So I like that answer.
I applaud the bravery.
Thank you. Because I'm pretty sure Palpatine would kick my butt. He'd possess my mind.
I've always been a hater for Palpatine. I've never liked his character. I'll be completely honest.
That's fair. He's kind of the
I think
worst.
I've told you that before.
You have.
It's just gross. Just doesn't really do much things cool. When he does, he's just moving around like an old man. I just can't get behind it. But I was going to say, while we were discussing this, I think that could be a cool topic for a future video of who we'd want to be in the Star Wars galaxy.
Like, specifically, is like a character we'd want to step into the role, or just kind of like what we were just doing, where we were just creating the role?
We were just creating the role, because I have something I think about a lot, like zombie apocalypses and everything. That's in the list where I'm like, oh, I'd totally be some sort of vagabond or something like that.
Right. Ooh, maybe that might have to be a topic for next week's stream.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe one of us. Maybe you surprise me and you really want to be a Sith.
Ooh, yeah. Well, I might pull that one out of my bum. I might. Yeah, I mean, shoot, I picked Yoda for last place in my list today, so I'm full of surprises.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe next Wednesday we'll just wake up in a bad mood and be like, yeah, I'm a Sith.
I'm going to have a terrible, terrible dream about my wife dying in labor, and I'm be like, yep, gotta kill everybody I know.
I'm laying in the back watching this.
Look, okay, she doesn't understand Star Wars, so it doesn't count.
Exactly, so she won't know what you're referencing. She'll just think you're dreaming about her dying. No, this is why we need to educate her. Okay, this is cool. We can end with this. So she volunteers at the Discovery Center in Boise, which is, it's not like a museum. They put on like different exhibits for like 5 weeks, and it's, I mean, you name it. Like I think they had one that was called like, I don't even remember what it was called, but it's basically this guy who travels the world, and he finds, like, he doesn't kill them. He finds like different kinds of bugs and such that are like crazy coloring, and he makes art out of them. And there's this whole gallery of his different displays of them. See, you paused in the bug part. You see, he goes out and kills them, and I was like, you didn't say bugs yet, and I was like, who's he? What?
Oh.
Is it Hitman?
No, he doesn't kill them. He finds them dead. So like he just kind of repurposes them, I suppose you could say. But
yeah,
like,
I didn't hear the bug part yet, so I was like,
good. I'm glad we got to that part. Anyway, so the next exhibit is, I think it's called The Fans Strike Back, and it's supposed to be like one of the biggest collection of Star Wars fan memorabilia. It's like a whole exhibit of Star Wars like stuff, and she had to do some like training on it and whatnot, but I told her like she was saying like how it'd be cool, I could go like do a video, and I definitely am gonna go and like take video and do like a whole video on my channel going through the exhibit. I don't even know what's all gonna be there, but apparently it's nuts.
That does sound very cool.
It starts up in like a couple weeks too, so I'm super stoked.
Yeah, that'd be an awesome video. I'd love to see that.
Little live action stuff.
Oh, that would be a face reveal then, huh?
No, I was thinking I wouldn't do it vlog style. I think I would do more like point and shoot, and then do voiceover commentary over the video.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think these people are ready to see that handsome face.
I kind of really want to save it for something special, like my video announcing that I'm quitting my job and going full-time YouTube.
That would be cool.
I think it'd be cool. I think it gives me another point of inspiration. So, well, I think we're gonna call the stream there. Your boy is really tired. It was a crazy long day at work. Thank you, Jacoby, for joining as always and chatting and having a conversation. Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. Next week, not the same time, an hour earlier than this, but same day, similar time, same people, same topics. Not same topics, similar topics. This is how you can tell I'm tired. Thank you all for joining. Those of you who caught this live, epic. For those of you who watch this on whatever podcasting site I finally decided to put this on, thanks for checking it out. We'll see you